So requirements versus design is, again, we've had a look at the requirements. We've had a look at what are the different types of requirements. We understood the requirements are basically the problem space, and then we've got the design, which is the bridge between the problem space and the solution space. So as BAs, we're expected to be able to identify, analyze, validate, define, specify, communicate, and manage requirements. So essentially, that's the crux of what we do, pretty much as most of a job would entail. So we are actually trying to elicit the requirements. We're trying to understand the requirements, analyze them, validate, verify, and then we need to also do the traceability of that requirements, from the requirements all the way down to the architecture, design, development, testing, and then backward to it again, requirements. And then being able to manage the requirements, if there are any changes to the requirements, any deletions, any additions, all of those, management of the existing requirements also is part of our day-to-day job. So when we talk about that, that's pretty much understood, right? So that's on the problem space. And then on the solution space, we've got the option to actually kind of recommend solutions, being able to work with the team to implement the solution, and then being able to deploy the solution and deliver it to the end customers and users. When there's something that is connecting this problem and the solution, that is the design. So design, as we understood, is basically the representation of the solution. So it could be in the form of a prototype, wireframes, high-level architecture, high-level design, low-level design, and then technical feasibility, POC, the proof of capability. All of these are basically the ways that you look at design. So the responsibility varying based on professional specialism. So that's where we talk about the technical architect, the technical lead, the lead programmer, lead developer, designer. So all of these have got different ways of, they've got the specialization in terms of whichever they are good at. So you've got a database administrator, DBA, who is specialist in administering the databases, in setting up the database schema, in setting up the tables, in doing all of these. That's the DBA specialization. Whereas if you talk about the HTML web developer, they're good with HTML5, CSS, styling, and presenting that in a good way, creating the web pages and being able to link the web pages to the server. All of these are good, are the specializations of a front-end developer. So we need to work with each of these different roles within the team to be able to understand and help them design the solution in the way that they could best contribute. So you need to understand what kind of a task involves data, whether that is involving code, does it involve a lot of design, does it involve a lot of presentation in terms of the visual design, does it involve animation, creating a bit of animation. So all of these, each of the roles would contribute in their own way. So we need to work with the respective professional and try and make sure that we're delivering as a team. So requirements in general are basically what we call as a need. They focus on the needs, the problems, the challenges, the opportunities, the risks, the assumptions, the constraints, and basically they're even sometimes the wishes and the wants of some of the stakeholders as well. So all of them could be the requirements. So they're on the problem space. You're trying to define the problem space. Whereas when you talk about solution, so design is basically falling slowly into the solution space. It's not really on the problem. So having defined the problems, have defined the needs, the challenges, the opportunities, all of these, then the designers would be taking all of these, whatever you have designed, you have created as BA, all of these artifacts, all of these different aspects of the problem space, they would then understand these and then start creating the solution. They would start giving it a shape, a form, a kind of a format, a kind of a presentation. So they would start creating the way it should look like, the architecture of it, the way it should be deployed, the way it should be behaving in terms of the functionality. They would start looking at the solution side, and that's where architects, designers, the visual designers, user interface designers, technical architects, the VFX designers, animation specialists, user experience designers, database administrators, data modelers, all of these people in their own specialization, their own specific way, they're trying to create a solution that would address the problems that and the opportunities and everything else that you have created as part of the problem space. So definition of requirements leads to a design. Essentially, we as BAs are helping the team and the designers to be able to design something, to be able to create the design and create that solution and implement that solution. And in the process, we might unearth and unfold and discover quite a lot of new requirements or changes to the requirements, which is part of the job. So we'll then go back and update those requirements and then bring it back into the solution. So again, this is a continuous process. It's not, that's why we keep talking about management of requirements. Not one, once you do this, it's done. It's not like a waterfall where you start with requirements and then you do the analysis, then design, then development, and then testing, and that's done. No, in the context of agile, it's more continuous process, right? Every sprint we rediscover, we start implementing, we take some requirements, we work on the requirements, design, develop, test, and then deploy, and then go to next sprint. Again, we start with new requirements or changes to the existing requirements, and then again do the same set of activities and then deploy. And then so that's a continuous loop, continuous cycle of development, integration, and deployment. So continuous development, continuous integration, and continuous delivery. So that's why we call that as a continuous loops of improvement. So again, we talk about the context of where design is related to requirements. So essentially, it is grounded on the requirements. So design is based on the requirements, because if you do not have the requirements right, what are you going to design? What are you going to have the solution? So requirements give you the basis and the foundation based on which you can start building the entire plan, the blueprint, and then development would actually build the house and then give. So it's like requirements is like basically giving a kind of a blueprint and an architecture, and giving, okay, this house should be shaped this way. This should have at least 6 rooms, 3 bedrooms must be there, 1 kitchen, 1 hall, and then 1 sitting room or something. And then you're actually saying that it should have so many different toilets, it should have this structure, this shape. You're bringing everything into, that's exactly what requirements is saying. It's actually giving you the what and the why. And then based on that, you're actually trying to create the, okay, if this is the kind of a thing, then I need to have this kind of a structure. This is the kind of material I need to use for these rooms. This is the dimension of this room. So the technical and the solution requirements would actually give you the what it should have. Sorry. And the transition requirements would give you the conditions based on which, okay, if this is happening, then they should have this. If the hall is it, or if the living room has got this kind of a dimension, then we should have the kitchen this way because it is related to this. We should have a link or a doorway into the kitchen. So you're trying to actually put the conditions there. So that's what is the transition requirements doing. And then the stakeholder requirements actually set the need. So as a house owner, as you say that, okay, I've got a family of we have got a family of 4. It's a husband and wife, and let's say 2 children, and that's the reason why we're going to have, let's say, instead of 3 bedrooms, we might, to keep it future proof, we might want to have 1 more bedroom, 3 or 4 bedrooms, right? So because of the considering the family, which is basically dictating the stakeholders, those are the people who have got the needs. So you're trying to say that I might want, instead of a big huge living room, I might want to compromise on that and have another bedroom in the ground floor, so we can accommodate any guests or parents coming in from elsewhere. So all of these are decisions that the needs of the stakeholders, but again guide you in terms of how you're going to structure your solution. So the design would need to accommodate all of these different types of requirements, giving right from the way the business requirements tell you the logic, the rationale of why we should have this, to the stakeholder requirements giving the needs of each of those individual stakeholders or the groups of stakeholders, to the solution requirements telling you what needs to be done, the functionality, the CRUD, and the transition requirements give you the conditional aspect of, okay, if we have all of these, then we can do this, we can achieve this, how we can deliver this solution, how can we train the users based on this, how can we do the knowledge transfer, how can we make it happen with respect to all these things being working, how can we make it happen with the next steps. So all of these are important for us to contribute to the next step, which is a design. And that should take people who are working on the design, the designers and the architects and everybody else need to refer to these different types of stakeholder or the requirements, stakeholder requirements, business requirements, solution, and the transition requirements. And they should be able to come up with a design which is addressing all these different requirements and propose a solution in a way that would address them, right? So that is basically what design is all about. So that's a very, very important. So basically the requirements and design should be working like hand in glove. We should be working hand in hand so that they're closely linked, and that would lead to the solution. So requirements is the engine which should actually power the whole the vehicle, and then it would work, it would actually reach the destination that it's supposed to have. So that in itself is what we're trying to talk about as requirements and design cycle.